Paul will sit on it.
Right below that piece.
This one you have the address.
Where's Peter? Oh, here he is. Let me open my water first.
Good.
Good evening. The chair will call the meeting to order at 6:34. First order of business is a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 is acceptance of minutes, Board of Selectmen minutes of April 24th, 2017.
So move.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Fox, seconded by Mr. Marcy. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Executive session minutes of 4/24/2017.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the Board of Selectmen's executive minutes for April 24th as written, not to be released.
Motion by Mr. Fox, seconded by Mr. Marcy.
Mr. Chair, do we have this? Oh. Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, you know why.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
Record will reflect one abstention. Board of Selectmen minutes of 5/4/2017.
Do I have that?
I don't see it here.
I don't see it. Huh? Okay.
Do you want us to wait on those? or do you wanna-
Let's
okay,
hold, we'll hold on.
on those. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph.
I'd like all of us to acknowledge the passing of Richard Andalevich, Dick's father, Jonathan's grandfather. Although in advanced years, it was not an expected passing, and I know that they've all done a lot for the town, not just in terms of serving, but in terms of donating services and goods, and they're just good people. And I wanted to make note of that and ask that we acknowledge with a brief silence, if we could. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add a couple lines to that also. Mr. Andrelevich was a wonderful man, great family. First one, as Mr. Joseph just said, to help out his son and his grandson. They run their operation the same way. I mean, if people knew what they've done for the town without getting recognition, without wanting recognition. But Mr. Andrelevich was a great man, and I saw some of the comments on telegram.com. One guy called him the pool guy, and it's kind of how I met him. I had problems with my pool, and he said, I'll come over, and didn't have a problem after that. So when you had a friend with Big John, you had a friend for life.
Well said.
Mr. Fox.
I concur with what Mr. Joseph said and what Mr. Sullivan said. The Andrelevich family is an exceptional family and has done so much for this town of Dudley. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family. I know that his mom, Richard's mom, is in Webster Manor, and he visits her every single day. And they're just a wonderful family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll echo whatever all these fine gentlemen said about the Andrelevich family. My father-in-law grew up with Richard, and he's been a good friend of the family growing up. And I used to remember taking the kids to Webster McDonald's and seeing Big John there holding court with his friends, and he was a fixture there, so he will be missed.
Thank you, Mr. Marcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item 4, there were no appointments and resignations tonight. Item 4 is public comments, citizens' comments, informational. Is anyone here tonight that is not on our agenda that would like to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bożena Jaroszewska. I am living. Hi, my name is Bożena Jaroszewska. I am living for 10 West Main Street in Dudley.
And I just want to read it, some my petition, you know. I know tonight, you want to turn over the Dave's Wave to the town hall.
One sec, please, Mr. Chair. Is this part of the Dave's Way?
Yes,
That's coming up after
That's
this.
on the agenda.
That's not, this is after this.
after this, but
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I want to explain what is my point, because I don't want to, like, you approve the Dave's Wave
No,
and, you know.
we'll give you an opportunity to
Yeah.
speak.
Ah, okay,
Public
thank
hearing,
you so
public
much.
hearing.
We have to open the public hearing, so it's not yet, it's next after
Number
this.
8,
Yeah, we have to wait till we open the public hearing.
number 8. Oh, number 6, sorry. Anyone else here tonight that, yes, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Sharon Rayla, and my husband and I are hoping to build a house on Hayden Pond in Dudley. And we've passed all the zoning board, everything that we've had to do to this point, and now we've gone before the historical committee. And on Friday, April 28th, my builder submitted all the final paperwork to the building department, and the building department confirmed they got it on Friday. The builder said that Mr. Braniff got it on Friday, April 28th. But I thought I probably ought to go see Mr. Braniff because I heard there could be possibly some delays. I met him at the Dudley Library on Wednesday, May 3rd, and he said he had my paperwork, but he did not, he said, quote, "I'm not gonna run around like a crazy person and try to get your paperwork into the Webster Times so that my situation could be heard on May 9th. So he said, you're gonna have to wait until June 13th. So we have a piece of property that we've owned for 25 years, built in 1970, that we're not gonna be allowed to take down until sometime potentially in June, if they have a meeting then. And it's delaying our progress for at least 6 weeks. He said that Mr. Braniff told me that if he gets multiple applications, he's not going to hear them all in the same meeting. So he pushes them out, and that he is allowed, because of the town bylaws, to do that. So he basically is in charge of my life. I'm not sure how that's possible that he can do that. Mr. Basnet came into the room at some point during our conversation, and I basically was appealing to them to understand that this is not a historical home. It's a camp that we've owned for 25 years. Dick Sear built it in 1970, and his family owned it, and then us in this whole time period. And Mr. Basnet said someone of importance might have slept there once.
So how do you feel being so welcomed into Dudley?
I've lived here my entire life.
I'm in this new property. What, that's a facetious question.
I live
Obviously,
here.
hold on.
This is my
hold on.
husband, sorry.
Obviously, you have lived here, but for this particular piece of property, you cannot feel welcomed by that reception. You certainly can't.
No.
All right? My question is, why do you have to get a ruling from the Historical Commission if the house was built in 1970?
Well, I asked that question, and Mr. Basnet said because someone important might have slept there once. That was his response to that. I asked the same thing. This is a shack that we've owned 25 years, and my husband and I slept in it once because we
Well,
live...
that's someone famous.
You
We're on TV now.
I am very important.
You're right, Dave.
Mr. Belliconis, are you aware of this?
I am.
Have you reached out at all to,
I've had difficulty connecting with the members of the board on the issue, but I'm aware of it, and apologize for the fact that the resident is upset. Certainly, if it was in our hands, we'd get it done quicker.
Mr. Sullivan?
Mr. Chair, I spoke to the Railers a couple of times now, and I took a look at the property. I was pretty sure I knew where it was, but I wanted to take a look at it. It's completely how she describes it. It's a square structure. built in 1970. Mr. Balcones confirmed that. I think the reason why the Historical Commission is involved, and I don't remember the bylaw, I remember what got put into play is every department has to sign off on that, like, checklist. She had her well installed, electricity disconnected. I mean, they've done everything, and she made it clear, like she did tonight, that every other step of the process, it's been smooth sailing, people have gone out of their way to help them. My concern is, it doesn't appear to me that this should be a holdup, for a couple of reasons. It's not, I'm not a historical person by any stretch. I don't think it should be deemed historical. I think all anybody gonna do is just look at the paperwork they submitted. Mr. Balcones is trying to contact members of the Historical Commission to find out what may be their issue. I understand them being at wit's end. I'm glad they came tonight. I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed. I mean, I'd like to have them come in. I mean, obviously, they're not here tonight. At some point later, I'd like to resolve their issue as quickly as we can, but I would like to understand why they can't have more than one hearing on one night if there's multiple hearings, why they can't do a special meeting. You know, there's issues underlying, but I think we need to work with these folks and get them going to where they want to be.
Do we know what the next scheduled meeting that you hope to have this on their agenda was?
Well,
set for?
tomorrow night is a meeting, and then not again until June 13th, if they have it. If they choose not to have it, now my builder is put on hold until July. If they're on vacation, August. You know, it's, my life is now in their hands. I just don't, and it's over nothing. It's not, if it was significant or important, I would understand it. I mean, he actually bragged to me how he has held up something else on Main Street in Dudley. He said, I've held them up since January.
Must be what?
He said he's held somebody up since January. And he said, and I have a right to do that because of the bylaws. And
Who
when
said that?
Mr. Braniff. And my dad is 83. He was with me as well. He's lived in this town his whole life. And I said, Dad, we need to leave. We left. I said, I guess I have to do what I have to do, meaning come see all of you. And he must have thought I meant tear it down anyway, because he said, if you tear your cottage down, I can hold up your building permit for 5 years. I mean, I just felt completely threatened by him and intimidated.
Okay, let me just, please.
Mr. Joseph, then Mr. Marcy.
Greg, is it standard procedure that the Historical Commission signs off on any demolition,
It is.
including a house that,
That I'm aware of, Paul, that's true, but generally, it should be perfunctory.
yeah?
You know what I'm saying, a home that has no historical significance, it should not be a lengthy process.
It should not be subject to review
I think the committee needs
unless
to,
it's just a sign-off.
the committee should act as a whole at a meeting, which is understandable. There should be no finding of any significance, and it should be dealt
Okay.
with.
Well, let me tell you that in 15 years, I've learned that my opinion is worth 20% of the vote of this board, nothing more. Michael is not the chair of the Historical Commission.
Yes.
Ed Bazinet is. Michael cannot unilaterally stop anything. He could seek to table it. I can't unilaterally stop anything. I can request to table, but even that, I can be outvoted, as it should be by the board. So, Michael is not an abrasive person, but he takes the historical nature of the entire town very, very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But I trust his judgment and Ed's and the rest of the Historical Commission that they will not find anything historically significant, regardless of who slept there, in a house that was built in 1970. It's their ball of wax, and all we can do is, through the chair, ask the town administrator to let the Historical Commission know what our sentiment is. All right? And we don't have authority over them. It's their ball of wax.
Mr.
Right.
Marcy.
Couple things. So, Greg, do we have, this has to be published in the Webster Times? That was one thing I noticed. And how much notice does it have to be in there for? A couple weeks?
A week.
I don't
Did
know.
you say?
He told me a week, but he said he wasn't gonna run around like a crazy person to
Yeah,
get it in
that's- I could see
on
that.
time. But he had Friday, Saturday, Monday to do that. 5 o'clock on Monday is the deadline, May 1st.
Yeah, there's this
And he
amazing
didn't-
thing called email. We could hit a button.
And I
right?
think it's just a phone call, but he said he wasn't gonna do that because he's not gonna hear multiple cases. So,
Yeah, to Mr. Joseph's point, they do take it very seriously, and they are amazing stewards of Dudley's history, and this board has supported, like, anything historical when it comes to record preservation and so forth. This sounds like a little overreach, like, we don't really need to be focusing on this. We're holding up progress.
If we were in British Parliament, I would bang the desk and say, yeah.
All right, so, but I ask Greg, in addition to like saying, hey, you know, that sounds a little out of order, can we also say, can they consider a special meeting?
I will ask them that.
You know, if it's in the Webster Times now, when it'll get published, this week?
this Friday.
This
yeah.
Friday, so a week, so maybe they can have a special meeting the week after that. And hear this case, if it is perfunctory, the meeting should take no longer than 10 minutes. My
Mr.
opinion.
Sullivan.
I agree, Mr. Chair, and I take Mrs. Rayla's depiction of the facts as, I think that's what happened. And we need to straighten this issue out, but we also need to know, as Mr. Joseph said, one person can't do what has been indicated to Mrs. Rayla. And if somebody turns in paperwork on time, to have something published, you know, there's a reason why there's deadlines for like the public hearing we have coming up. Mr. Sharetti had to do things. I don't think that any single board member who receives something on time or in time should say, I don't have to do it. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm just going off what she said. So as I said, we need to get these folks where they need to be, but then I think we need to have some conversations with historical and maybe other boards and make sure everybody's on the same page when it comes to serving the public. That's what we're here for. We're not here to serve interests or serve a greater good that's going to impact somebody when it's not I'm trying to phrase it right. I don't want to sound too harsh, but I think you know what I'm getting at. You know, we're not talking about someone pulling down a house that was built 250 years ago, which is why this bylaw came into play. I recall it going through town meeting with a lot of discussion, and I remember the proponents of the bylaw, which were the Historical Commission, probably Black Tavern people. I remember them specifically saying, this isn't gonna affect the average homeowner. This is to put in safeguards, and it was about the 1805 house. That was 200 and something years old. I mean, you can have your opinions and fall the way you think, but I don't think the bylaw was created to put a stumbling block in front of residents like this.
Not at all.
No,
No.
not at
Right.
all.
You know, as she said, her dad was with her, who's 83. I think most of us know the family. I mean, you know, we're talking about a solid Dudley family, you know, that's been here 100 years, whether you've been here 1 year or 100, I mean, but.
Yep.
Well, not the Raylas, but the Manzonis.
Manzoni,
Yeah, I
right?
don't want to say, I don't want to say your maiden name, but the Manzonis have been, they get streets named after them, crying out loud in this town. So,
Mr. Chairman, is there anything, before Peter goes, is there anything we can do, in your opinion, Greg, to assist them in any way other than what we've done so far?
We've done, on our end, we're pretty much powerless because the action is made by the committee, Paul. So, I think coming here this evening is sufficient to let the Historical Commission know the board's opinion on this matter. And typically, I see the members on a daily basis. I haven't seen Mr. Branagh for a couple of days. It's no excuse, but usually they're pretty regular customers in through Town Hall.
Mr. Fox.
Mr. Administrator, I'm going to ask that you reach out to either the Bazinets or to Mike Braniff. If you need my assistance, I can come into Town Hall during the day. If you need me to help with this issue, I'll certainly be more than glad to do that. Just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Mr. Rayla, we'll try to
Thank you.
make something
I really
happen.
appreciate your help.
We'll get it worked out.
Stay in contact
I'm
with the
sure.
town administrator, though. Make-
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
take care, folks.
Anyone else tonight that doesn't have something on our agenda that would like to be heard? Seeing none. We'll move on to a public hearing. We're gonna reopen the continued hearing from 4/24/2017 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 82, Section 21, to accept Dave's Way. Could we have the highway superintendent and Mr. Chiaretti come up? 654, Michelle. Mr. Bell, your comments.
So, in your packet this evening, the board had not received a copy of the site visit engineering report. There's a copy dated May 4th of 2017. It goes through a number of conditions and issues that were raised at the board's last meeting. And then also, you have a letter that's in the packet that has been submitted by some residents concerning additional requests to approve common driveway and public roadway. So I'd ask you to consider those as part of tonight's meeting.
Mr. Chair, can we have since I don't see the town engineer nor the town planner, we have highway superintendent. He was present, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I did go down Dave's Way several times in the last week and a half. Most recently this afternoon, Mr. Chiaretti has done all the work that I had submitted to him to do in order to bring that road up into an acceptable condition. I have no issues with that road at this time. Everything has been taken care of. It's an older road, but it's been brought back to life by the sand seal and all the other related work that I had asked for him to do.
Mr. Marcy, then Mr. Fox.
So including like I drove down there like that night after I read it because I was working. So like the stumps on the, not the stumps, the branches on the section of sidewalk, Danny, that you, Mrs. Reddy, you picked that up too?
Where we took the trees out?
Oh, yeah,
It's
okay.
all cleaned
Oh,
up,
wow.
yes.
That was a sense of that, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Fox.
Danny, it's my understanding that, in your opinion, that Mr. Zaretti has met all the requirements that you have asked him to do?
That is correct.
And have they been reviewed with the planning board?
I do not know that, no.
Well, Greg, would you know that?
Yeah, and the planner is aware of the site inspection report. Whether the planning board's had a meeting to actually formally acknowledge it, that I don't know, but they're in possession of the same report you have.
Okay, so the planning board concurs with the highway department that it meets the requirements that was asked of it?
Peter, I'm sorry, I don't know if the planning board has met to review this report. So this report was just received,
Okay.
and I don't know whether, it's been received by the planning department, but if it takes an action of the planning board and they have a meeting, I don't know whether they've reviewed it or not at this point.
Mr. Sullivan.
I believe the planning board did not have their meeting last week as scheduled, and they're meeting this week. But I have just a quick question, and I addressed it with the superintendent. I just wanted out in public. At one point, he was concerned about trees hanging over the road. I took a ride out there during the daytime. I ended up speaking to one of the residents. You're comfortable with not trimming the trees back?
I'm comfortable at this point, because I know there were several residents, I guess, the last meeting that were concerned that we don't take too much of the trees down. I looked at it again, and I'm gonna have to bring one of our dump trucks down there if and when this road gets accepted, and just do the least amount of trimming possible. I hate to have something trimmed right now and then not have it done the proper way. It looks like at this point there'd be some minor trimming, as opposed to taking the trees completely out of there. And I think that's something we can handle towards the fall if and when this road becomes accepted.
Because they do seem to, I mean, the nice trees, I know Mr. Chiaretti was instructed to plant them 27 years ago or whatever, but
A pickup truck going up and down the road, you're not gonna notice it.
It's
It
high
goes
up.
under the branches, but some of those trucks we have are pretty high as the ones that are gonna be plowing over there, if that's the case.
okay.
Mr. Fox.
It's of my opinion that if Mr. Zaretti has met all the requirements, and if the planning board meets this week and agrees that all the requirements have been met, then I think he should be granted permission, and that road should be accepted.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan.
I believe that the person that got up to speak before, waiting to be heard, is referring to a document that's in our packet. It's coming from the town clerk's office. And I was only made aware of it today, so I think we need to let that resident come up and speak,
Sure.
I believe, from 410.
Are there other residents here tonight that would like to be heard? Are they, oh, is there one voice for the neighborhood, or is there separate concerns? Okay, so we'll hear this lady first, and then we'll switch, okay? Oh. Yes, ma'am.
Just add another chair. You can sit there. It's down there.
Good evening, my name Bożena Jaroszewska. I am concerned about turning the Dave's Way to
Ma'am,
town hall.
could you just speak up?
I just wrote some petition, you know, because we're living in 410, 46, and 410 Main Street. And this is the common driveway.
Could you just speak up a little bit, because Mr. Marcy can't hear anything?
Okay. So maybe I will read
Seriously?
it what I wrote. In our understanding, the Dave's Way Sheridan Boulders has filed a petition asking the town of Dudley to approve Dave's Way as a public town road. We understand that this matter is the subject of the public meeting scheduled for today. The purpose of this correspondence is to request that our common driveway, part of Dave's Way constructed and maintained by Sheridan Boulders, be approved as a road or as a part of petition to Sheridan regarding Dave's Way. Please be advised that our properties are part of Sheridan Boulders Dave's Way development, as the Highway Department of Worcester did not allow the connection to the 3 driveways to West Main Street in Dudley. Sheridan obtained approval from the Town of Dudley Zoning Board of Appeal on December 4, 2003 to allow our 3 houses to use one common driveway, which is part of Dave's Way. In compliance with this approval, the common driveway was installed by Sheridan Boulders Incorporation. The driveway was paved and sustainable pressure-treated wood guardrail was installed at the end of the right-of-way. Mailboxes were installed at the beginning of the right-of-way, and rubbish removal was established at the entrance of this way. Most importantly, this common driveway was always been maintained by Sheridan, including snow plowing. Please approve this common driveway as a part of this way development for the purpose of all maintenance, included but not limited to snow plowing. Right now, we are worried what will happen with us
Mr. Sullivan, you aware
if
of
you decided to turn over the Days Wave. How about our 3 houses? What we have to do?
Mr. Chair, the subdivision was obviously way before my time on the planning board. And I do remember, I think if you look at the enclosed map, I believe lot 4, the one on the corner, driveway exits onto Dave's Way. But I believe, as this lady has indicated, that common driveway accesses lots 1, 2, and 3, so they come in from the rear.
Yes.
And when she says Highway of Worcester, I think what she meant, and
Yep.
maybe Mr. Guyan probably remembers, Mass Highway wouldn't let him
Have
put the driveway
access
onto
from
West Main Street.
Yes.
Okay, so I was confused with the Highway Department of Worcester.
Right. And I know the other stuff about the, I don't, honestly, I don't remember this document. I'm fairly certain I was on the planning board in 2003. I mean, obviously, it's a legitimate document. We got a copy from the town clerk, so she has it on file. I guess at this point, we'd have to defer to Mr. Guyon if he remembers the highway, the driveway access, but Mr. Sharetti can maybe shed a little more light on it.
I don't remember when it was built, what was transpired, what was talked about at that time. but I am not in favor of taking responsibility for that common driveway, and there's a few reasons why. Number one, there are a few other common driveways in town, and I think we're gonna set a precedent. There's no doubt that those people will be calling down here or calling my office to have the same services for them. Number two, when I went down there this afternoon to check on Dave's Way, I did go down that common driveway. The road is 10 feet wide, in one spot it may be 11. The two vehicles that are close to that area that may be assigned to plow that road if it becomes accepted, both have 12-foot wide plows. You're gonna be ripping up the sides of the lawns and the grass over there. Number three, when you get down to the end of that common driveway, there's about a 15-foot section after the last driveway. It has a wooden guardrail. Dump trucks that plow over there are 25 feet long with the sander sticking out the back and the plow sticking out the front. There's no place to push the snow with a big truck or to turn around and get out of there. It's gonna have to back all the way out if that's even possible. So those are just a few of the reasons that I would not be in favor of maintaining that roadway, that common driveway.
Mr. Fox.
I support Danny Guyan's comments that when I had mentioned about if all the requirements were met for Dave's Way, I was not including a driveway or a common driveway. And I support Danny Guyan's concerns and comments.
Question?
Sure.
Is whether Dave, you or Danny can answer this, who owns the land under the common driveway?
It's actually like an easement where all three houses have the right to pass over that land to get access to their house.
So did Lot 4 and Lot 5 sign an easement for a right-of-way?
It's in their deed that they're offer right away.
Okay, so at this time, that common driveway is still privately owned
By those three houses,
by what three houses?
three houses that access it. It's a
One,
shared-
two, three,
it's
they own the land?
A shared driveway.
Or they just have a right-of-way?
There's actually three houses that go off of that driveway, that are
Right.
accessed off of that driveway.
But the land underneath the driveway, David, who owns it? A right-of-way does not
Mr.
confer
Sharetti,
ownership.
if you could just pull a chair up, that'd.
Yeah.
you know,
I'm sorry, yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
A right-of-way or an easement, like I have with my neighbor for part of his driveway, I still own the land.
It's the rear of the properties. The properties go to the back side of the right of way.
The backside,
Each landowner owns their portion.
okay. All right, so regardless of who owns it, that property is still privately owned. The land underneath the common driveway is privately owned.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, but I am not sure because in the first map, when you have, I don't know, 19 something, they're supposed to build the road around the houses, three houses, from Dave's Way to Main Street. Then they changed the plan. They built the common driveway on the back. I am not sure it belongs to my property. I am not sure. I just want to see the plan.
Here.
I got you.
Okay.
Because,
Four has a driveway here.
Well, if I may, regardless of whether you own it or the right-of-way is only an easement granted by the owners of lots 4 and 5, it is still, gentlemen, a privately owned land under that common driveway. And that's the key, regardless of which lot owns it.
so this is no way somebody will help me, you know. I am paying the taxes and I have to share with all my neighbors to the rest of my life to paying for all money to repair the road and to pave, to plowing. It's like
Well,
I
somebody
feel
owns
that
that,
town
yeah.
hall didn't help me, you know. I just came here to ask you for your help. What is,
Yeah, I
how you
always
can
take,
help me?
I always take the popular position. But that land is not Dave's Way. It is privately owned land that is not, by definition, Dave's Way.
You're correct.
All right?
That was built by Dave's Way Development Group. They built the old subdivision, then built the houses over there.
Ms.
And
Chairman, I'm sorry.
they sell the houses, to me, to my neighbors,
It
to
can be
everybody,
confusing. I know
It
that.
is confusing right now, so I don't know.
Mr. Sullivan?
So, I think the question becomes, as Mr. Fox stated, we got this second document subsequent to our last meeting from the town clerk, has a certificate of no appeal, which means conditions must be met. The issue becomes, are all of the five conditions on that official document been met? And number one, contractor, names Mr. Sharetti, must change house numbers from West Main to Dave's Way for safety purposes. Was it met? It's not checked off.
What are your addresses? They're West Main?
410 West Main Street.
It's still West Main Street.
But it's not supposed to be,
Yeah, but this
based
says
on
it's
this letter from
supposed to be Dave's
2003.
Way.
It's supposed to be changed. No idea who that is.
And you know what? I'm just gonna give you my opinion now. Whatever you vote, whatever we vote, we vote.
It's the popular opinion, I'm sure.
Yep. I would not accept that common driveway as part of what we accept as Dave Way, all right? Because it's privately owned land, and those are West Main Street addresses. If in fact those get changed to the right numbered Dave's Way street addresses, then I personally would absolutely reconsider it.
Let's show the house numbers. I'm gonna take the position that this is part of the official packet for road acceptance of the Dave's Way subdivision. I'm gonna take it one step further and ask, the plan is not here, was all this paperwork submitted by bylaw January 31st like it's supposed to be? So we're not running around on May
That's a good point, Sally.
8th with a town meeting coming up. And it's not a reflection on Mr. Sharetti, the residents, this lady here who brought the issues up. I understand it's a private common drive, and I think some of those issues have been addressed through the years. Now you can't access 3 lots like that with one driveway. They have to be of a certain size, blah, 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 blah. We got that I think it's Britley's Way on, back by, 2-lot subdivision there.
Dressing Hill too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That those lots are a certain size, they meet the new requirement, these obviously didn't. So I guess my question is, to the administrator, to the chair, is this supposed to be part of the official record of Dave's Way?
What is that you're holding up?
The document that says the 5 things that were apparently agreed upon back.
Talk about the 2003 document?
Yes, because it's a certificate of no appeal, which I believe means it was submitted by somebody into a public hearing process and was accepted as a contract to the town, and it appears that number 1 has not been met.
But it clearly states that this is a common driveway in the blueprint.
And it clearly states that the houses will be renumbered. And I'm not saying that has an impact.
But they're not. But they're not.
Correct. It should have, had to, by this, it should have been.
Right.
I also think, Mr. Chairman, I mean, if this common driveway was supposed to be part of Dave's Way, it would have been built to specs like a roadway to give the adequate turnaround space and maintenance area for work on the roadway. And it's, like I said, it's only 10 feet wide and the plows are 12 feet. And there's no place to turn around at the end.
Been that way for 25 years?
Can I ask a question of David?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on this, knowing that you might end up incurring some additional expenses, or your thoughts on the fact that the numbers have not been changed to a Dave's Way address at this point? What's your thinking?
The numbers haven't been changed because the houses do face West Main Street. That's what we were given for the numbers by the town for the piece of property, because they do face face West Main. We tried to get driveways to go onto West Main. We went to the state would not allow us to cut 3 driveways onto West Main Street because of safety reasons, sight lines. We tried to connect Dave's Way out to West Main, the right-of-way out to West Main and become a throughway so that these people wouldn't have that issue. The state, once again, wouldn't let us. So at that point, we had to back off. The town had already issued the numbers, so we haven't changed things as of then. And that's the reason why the numbers are for West Main Street, and the address is West Main Street, but they actually do get their mail on Dave's Way. It's between the town and the state. They wouldn't agree upon giving us access to the driveway, no different than the driveway that's there. I was told I could not do that. Somebody went and put a driveway out to West Main Street, unbeknown to me. I saw it after it was done. It's not supposed to legally be there.
So that was put up without a permit?
Which one, David? Which lot?
I'm not sure which lot it is. It might be 3, lot 1, 2, might be lot 3, might be 3. There, you'll see that there's a little piece of paved driveway there. That was not supposed to be put in. I
Picture it.
gave acceptance to the state that I would not do any curb cuts. Curb cut was not applied for.
So they paid to put a curb cut in too?
Somebody put a driveway in
Under the cover of darkness.
without regulations.
With a curb cut?
Did
we permit
No
it?
curb cut?
I tried getting curb cuts and getting access off West Main. They wouldn't allow it because of sight lines
Huh.
and safety issues. Because of that hill that's
Oh, yeah.
there,
Yeah, I can see it.
it's a hazard. So that's why they wouldn't allow us to continue the right-of-way around.
It's too close to
Come
the
out.
intersection.
Okay.
So that's why the numbers got to be that way, because they were hoping that we could. So the town issued me those numbers. I mean, I'm only following what the town gave me, you know? It's not my right or my privilege to change the house numbers. You know, I can't just do that.
Okay.
Ma'am, part of the issue tonight is that we're looking specifically at Dave's Way, for the improvements that were made on Dave's Way that we've been talking about for a while now.
Correct.
So for us to say you need to improve all of Dave's Way and meet these certain criteria, but never mind on making a driveway into a road, it's something that we wouldn't even be able to vote on, because it's not part of the criteria that we're looking at tonight.
Yes, I understand, but I wanna know what for the future, who will take care, what happened with our houses, you know. Sometimes if you agree with your neighbor, you know, we can share, you know, the plowing during the winter, we can, but if we disagree, so will be tough. I am living living on the last house, you know. For me, it's so I have to take care of everything. I have to pay. I have to maintain the road. It's like it's tough situation, you know, for me, and I need help. I am.
So,
Mr. Chair, like maybe Mr. Shreddy would know, the access granted by the private way through the original covenant, was there any language in the original covenant that said, for example, I'm not sure of the terminology, we'll just say, private common drive cannot be considered for acceptance, you know, if there's was there any language ever inserted into the original subdivision approval?
Even without going that far, does the language in the original covenant say a right-of-way for private driveway access? Not even the word common. Just, you know, what's the purpose of the right-of-way as stated in the original covenant?
Oh, I'm gonna, once again, Dave did the approval well before any of us were involved, and I'm gonna think that through the years, that's why we've tightened up some of these regulations. I know Danny said there's some others in town, I know there are others, we all know shared driveways. I just wanna know, 'cause sometimes, like that other subdivision we're talking about, it clearly states in their approval, your road can never be offered up for acceptance. And because of that, they were allowed to waive drainage,
Yeah.
waive curbs, waive streetlights. It's a trade. The town wins because there's less road to plow, but the developer wins because there's less work to be done.
That's called mortgaging the farm.
Well, the people that buy it understand too, though, that when they get their deed, you know, they go to their real estate and they see it and they say, oh, access by a private way, oh, condition 4 can never be accepted by the town, for example. I'm just wondering, was that language ever included in the beginning?
It probably was not. I would have to say no at the time, because, I mean, we came in with a plan, a definitive plan, and, you know, I mean, everything was spelt out soup to nuts on what we're asking from the town.
Right.
We didn't ask, I mean, I don't feel you would have to specify what you're gonna do with private property once, to do a subdivision. You know, that's my opinion. I mean, because then you open up a can of worms. I mean, you can say, well, I don't want anybody fishing on my side, and you're not fishing on my side, you know, one of those things. I mean, it'd be a never-ending story. You know, we did try to help them people out. I mean, the road was supposed to be just gravel. It wasn't even supposed to get paved right away.
Who paved it?
I did.
You
Out of
did?
the goodness of my heart. And I plowed it all these years, out of the goodness of my heart, you know, just because I was there. It took me an extra 5 minutes, but I mean, as Mr. Guyon says, it definitely don't meet criteria as far as anything from the town.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's definitely, you know, drainage purposes or whatever the case may be, just the width. You know, I have to go up and down twice, and even at that, I'm plowing up the neighbor's yard, and I get yelled at every year, but, you know, I just felt it was a good deed to do, that's all.
Okay.
Is there anyone else here tonight that wants to be heard specifically on this easement issue? Okay, I think we understand the issue, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Accept the conditions. I continue to be subject to planning board approval. We have to make sure that they're on
Good
board
evening.
also, so that he can move forward with the town meeting, but no common driveway.
I've been a resident there for 17 years.
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
Can you hear me better now?
Microphone, just check right here.
Yeah, just pull it.
Don't hesitate.
That's-
Hi, can you hear me better now?
That's good.
Okay, very good. My children never tell me they have a hard time hearing, so I have to
Right.
speak up here. So again, my first name is Alina, my last name is Supernaut. I live at 15 Dave's Way in Dudley. I have lived there for 17 years. I was young when I built, that was my first house that I built. And my neighbors have asked me to address some issues of concern. I have my own, but I'm gonna do those first with your permission, my neighbors' concerns.
About Dave's Way itself?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first one is, there's no street sign. So I believe the concern is that if there's no street sign, then how is any emergency EMS, police, I mean, I guess they probably know where it is, but it could be a safety issue.
Can we try to answer them as we move along quickly?
I thought there was a street sign.
Dave,
The street
you
sign
don't want to
went up-
see your name on a street sign?
The street sign went up at 4 o'clock, but I put 4 of them up, and they disappear real quick, so I'm hoping that everybody drives by there tonight and sees the street sign.
I
so
think I've
that
seen it before.
I can't say I didn't put it up.
And hopefully nobody
Okay.
named
It is
Dave.
up there.
Danny, you know if it meets
Lena?
today's requirements, the letters?
So it went up at 4 o'clock?
It did.
Oh, great. So I
Check.
can cross that off the
Yes,
list.
Yes.
Making progress already.
There you go.
The second concern is whether or not the residents would be forced to hook up to water and sewage. Would the town force them if they accepted the roadway?
Can we force you to accept water and sewer if we accept the roadway? No, we have roadways that don't have town water and sewer.
Okay.
We don't
Sully?
even have a line there, do we?
What's the story?
I'm not a water sewer guy, but I don't want to speak for water and sewer, but isn't there some kind of, if a sewer line runs in front of your house, even if you don't tie in, you still have to pay a betterment charge, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah.
That's true, but you don't have to connect.
Correct, but if, hypothetically speaking, if there's a potential of a sewer line, you go to sell your house someday, I believe the mortgage company or the bank can require you to connect.
So, yeah, there would be a betterment, if they went, the sewer line was sold in front of a property, there'd be a betterment, and the betterment would be paid off if the property was sold.
But I also
I
believe,
think there is a water.
I also believe there was an issue when they tried to do that land behind the courthouse that fronts onto West Main.
There's no water or sewer in
No.
No,
at all?
Oh,
no, but the water pressure's so poor on that side of town, and the gradient is so steep that water and sewer was not an issue because the person wanted to put a subdivision in at one time, but it was below the grade of the road,
on the left, yeah.
couldn't pump it up. Sewage couldn't get pumped up.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably gonna be a non-factor for a long
But we
time.
always talked about connecting to from the other side.
Love to do that.
Love to do that at some
Utilize
point,
West
but-
Dudley.
I'd-
Bartello would be, pulled me out of the house by then, so.
Like I said, I don't wanna speak for water and sewer, but I don't believe there's any
Mr. Chairman, can she ask a
tension.
question again? Are you going to be required to connect to sewer and water?
I believe the concern is that if the town does formally accept Dave's Way, are we going to be forced to hook up or have a betterment charge if there happens to be sewage, water or sewage that runs
Outside of our purview.
down Main Street?
No.
But there's currently no water or sewer in the
Correct.
road.
Right.
Correct.
I'm not gonna say yes, I'm not gonna say no. It's really outside of our purview.
I hate to answer it with common sense, because that might not be right.
I would say probably okay there.
Logic would tell me if there's no sewer and water going down Dave's Way, you're not subject to betterment, and I can't imagine any town having the gall to require any resident, homeowner, to install sewer and water.
You ever hear Webster Lake?
That's
Well, that's
different.
a different story entirely.
That's different.
Well, you know what?
That's
Rules,
because the lake was being polluted.
well,
There's
you know
no,
what? Rules change and
That- that's-
mandates come down, and as we all know.
Right.
But anyway, I think it's a non-starter.
That's not the intention of this
Selectmen
meeting.
live there, so.
So I happen to agree with you, Mr. Joseph. Common sense would indicate or dictate that there is no sewer or water going down Main Street at that point. The chances of it happening are nil to none, probably. So it probably wouldn't be a concern, but it is a concern of my neighbors, and they've asked me to address it.
Well, let them speak for themselves.
Okay.
Better
I
address-
know,
better
that's
address
just
the
the way
water.
it's
Water Sewer Commission, maybe get on go to one of their meetings, I think.
Okay.
My
I think it's a
opinion,
non-starter.
yeah, I think
I-
slim and none and slim left
haven't
town
heard-
is,
Yeah, I agree.
situation other than
Yeah.
something like Webster Lake,
yeah,
where you're compelled to do a water tie-in.
right, because there's a
Okay.
whole bunch of other streets
Well,
that could
Cardinal
say the
Heights.
same thing. Cardinal Heights,
Cardinal Heights, they
Camelot
force all those
Circle,
people to tie in.
yeah.
Except for me, my street doesn't have it, all the other ones have it. They all got
Was
told
it put in before or after?
after.
You seem impatient. You seem
Well, because Dudley Oxford Road has a
When you go
water
to,
main.
like when you go to sell, I mean, if you have a functional septic, you.
Yeah, we all set on this?
Well, apparently not, because we're having a discussion.
Yeah, she's got a big list
We
there,
weren't-
and a
we
very
weren't-
big
We
pen, by
weren't
the way.
discussing it, we'd be all set.
So I guess the answer is, we don't think so. How's that?
But go to take it to
Fair
water and
enough.
sewer.
Yeah,
But
water
but as
sewer,
Mr. Sullivan advises, going to water and sewer would be the foremost authority for more than us, so.
Okay, it's well taken. So the next issue is streetlights. Currently, we have streetlights. Mr. Sharetti has been good enough to pay for those streetlights to be on, and along with maintaining the street all these years, and we appreciate that. But going forward, if the town accepts the street, what happens to the streetlights and who pays for them?
Who owns the lights?
Mass Electric owns them, I pay for them. I pay the bill to run
Mass
them.
Electric owns them.
They own and maintain the lights. Right now, I have an account set up with them with some escrow money, no different.
Well, you
than-
do a lot of stuff to the goodness of your heart, don't you?
Not bad, huh?
How do you make money and survive?
We own,
I get by,
we
that's
take the
fine.
road, we own
We
them.
own all the lights.
There's your answer.
Story on that.
We own them.
We take,
We will own them?
We own them,
We will,
So he's off the hook?
yes.
Mr. Massey?
You know what?
Well, I said it last time, it's my opinion, if we take the road, then we need to do the streetlights, because that's a quality of life.
Well,
That's a
apparently-
non-starter for me if we say no to that.
Apparently we do anyway, so.
Oh, wait, hold on, this just in, we gotta take streetlights.
How many lights are there,
this
Dave?
was turned in January. all these-
4?
There's
Four on that little road, really? Wow.
One
Very
of them
safe
i-
road, chief.
One of them is actually at the end of my driveway, so I
You
do
kinda like
enjoy
that?
having
Oh, I see.
All
I
right, we'll
see.
send you the bill.
Wait, there's not one down their road, their driveway, right? You don't have one? No. Okay.
It cost us $1,300 a year to maintain these lights.
For 4 lights?
Correct.
What, do you have, 1,000,000-watt bulbs in them things?
I don't know, they bill me $110 every month, so.
Yeah, that's about right.
Math.
110 bucks, yeah.
For all 4?
I thought it was like 50 bucks.
Next?
Okay, so the next issue, so the town's gonna own the streetlights, so that's not an issue.
Well,
Okay.
we may renege on that, but go ahead.
We're not reneging on anything, go ahead.
Okay, the next concern that they had was the center islands that are currently in place. Who's gonna maintain them? Will the town maintain them if they take the street over?
What's the deal on that, Danny?
Yeah, we'll have to take care of it.
What
We'll
will we
mow them
do?
all down.
We're not gonna put mulch down and
Right,
all
we're
that.
not gonna, you're not gonna be trimming shrubs.
Wait, the cemetery discussion's next.
The
hold
brush
on.
mower we got.
Not gonna be trimming shrubs or
Plastic
putting down
flowers.
weed killer.
Isn't there mulch and stuff in that? And-
With the proviso that there's a very limited budget to maintain
Exactly. You know-
islands, so.
With all reasonableness, I don't wanna go out on a limb here, but personally, you know, within reason. We don't need anything fancy. It's just, a lot of the stuff that's there has been there for, I don't know, at least the 17 years that I've been there. It's pretty self-sufficient as far as not requiring too much upkeep. I know I've seen Dave on occasion when he's trying to prepare the street for town acceptance on the few occasions that I'm aware of over the last 17 years, he's cleaned it up. But other than that, I'm not really too sure that it's too high maintenance.
It's about maybe once every 4 years you have to deal with.
What
trimming.
type of things do you do, Dave?
Pardon me?
What types of things do you do to maintain
Just
it?
trim them back so that, like Mr. Guyon saying, they're not hanging into the road, and you're
Okay.
not plowing and scuffing up the trucks and
Well,
stuff.
I'm worried about the mulch and rocks and all that.
No.
Just nothing like that? Just like
Au
a...
naturel is
All natural. I was just gonna say that. Okay.
Is that reasonable, Mr. Guy?
Yes, it is.
Okay, next.
Mr. Chair, I did speak to a resident over there, and that gentleman indicated to me that, and of course, he won't live there forever, I'm sure, that he, and I'm sure other residents, do pitch in and do, like John says, quality of life. If you're living across from something that you can take care of, they've been taking care of it also.
Okay.
Not saying that we can rely on it, but
That's okay.
But we don't want to
The
get...
neighborhood, right?
We don't want to get in the business of taking care of landscaped areas that we use to sell developments. In some towns, they're required to take those out before the town accepts the property.
Like Dennis will have a
And as
coronary
Greg-
if we
and
have
as
to,
Greg just indicated, and I know Danny's making a
you know.
off-call, joke before, if there is a problem with something and we pull it out, I'm gonna feel bad, but if Mrs. Supernaut comes in 3 years and says, why'd you do it? Danny's gonna say, because I had to. Because once we own it, we have to exercise some form
But
of
it won't be
control.
our default position to go in there and level it.
No, I said if there's an issue, is what I said.
Okay, all right.
I like it.
So their last
turn will be up.
concern,
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
their last concern that they gave to me was the concern that even though Mr. Sharetti has maintained the street, and we're very thankful for that, at some point, it's going to come to an end. It's not gonna last forever. I know when I built my house, I live at the end of the cul-de-sac. It was the intention at that time, 17 years ago, that the town was going to take the street over when all the houses were put in. And unfortunately, we are here tonight, so, we're concerned that if he leaves because we can't come to an agreement, then we're stuck on a street that has no services if the town doesn't want to accept it, because he's not going to remain the caregiver indefinitely.
Of course, final acceptance is up to town meeting.
Town meeting. no,
Correct.
it's-
We're making sure all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed at this particular hearing. So that's nothing that we have absolute direct responsibility for, Mr.
Right, I
Sullivan.
was gonna say, Mr. Chair, if the road's accepted, and Mr. Guyon can correct me, it becomes part of the town and part of our chapter money, and Danny will be able to go up there and make repairs. If there's an issue, the road hopefully won't deteriorate. But as Mr. Ruder just said, it's a whim of the town meeting. And if there's 100 people at the next town meeting and 51 say no, I mean, Mr. Sharetti can do everything, we can give him approval. Thank you, you've worked with us, we worked with you, but if 51 people say no and 49 say yes, the road's not accepted.
So all your neighbors know there's a town meeting coming
I
up.
mean, I've never seen a road not accept, well, I take that back, one time, since I've been a selectman, but
And so when is this town meeting?
May 22nd,
Monday night.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from tonight.
So,
That should be, you should have that tattooed on your tongue. You should know that.
I will get on that.
That's the
Mr.
most
Absolutely.
important
That
part.
is the most important, all right.
so that's the biggest issue. If a majority says no, then
So now, these are just my concerns. With all due respect to the highway superintendent, I do understand that the town's position is they don't want to take a street that is not been maintained, because then it becomes their problem. I do understand that. I don't think, as far as with the plowing, I understand he is concerned as far as with the trees and the large trucks coming through in the wintertime to plow, that's a concern. Just to put it out there, I have been a subcontractor for the town of Webster, and my pickup trucks have been subbed out for various streets that were not conducive to large trucks, and it was required that they be plowed. So for whatever it's worth, I don't know if that's a precedent, since they're an adjoining town, if that could be taken under consideration. I know that as far as Dave's Way,
Looks like he doesn't want the road approved.
She might not, but you know what? She knows what she's talking about.
Oh, that's up to me, right?
I know as far as Dave's Way, there's been an occasion where I've been asked to plow by Mr. Chiaretti in his absence, and we had no issue. I know that we have, 10-foot plows, and we didn't have an issue. Obviously, that's up to the superintendent. I'm just putting it out there that it can be done. I really was listening to my neighbors on Main Street over here and that plight with that right-of-way and their driveway there. And that could possibly be a solution. I don't know. I don't know what the town superintendent has for equipment, but could possibly be done.
Mr. Sullivan?
I think the issue is, we ran into this with Paula Lane, who, by the way, did not come back this spring like they were supposed to and ask us to continue, but that's an issue for another day. If Mr. Guyan's allocating his snow removal force, and that section of town has a dump truck, like my neighborhood gets plowed by a loader. And a resident questioned me on that a couple of years ago, and Danny explained because of the way the roads are and the size of the plow runs, I don't think it's fair if he's plowing with a dump truck on that side of town, that he has to pull a pickup from pick a place and send it over for one street. And I think that's the concern with the trees, and I think Danny brought that up at the beginning of this meeting, that will be done probably with a dump truck.
So to the extent possible, we generally leave the operational side of the highway department to the highway superintendent, is what Mr. Sullivan's saying.
That's the easy answer.
Mr. Fox?
I was just gonna say the same thing. Danny's been doing this for 25
40.
years or more, and he knows what equipment is needed on certain roads. So, I give Danny a lot of credit when he signs the vehicles to the proper location, so I trust Danny's judgment on this.
Okay, well, I just thought if another town did it, it might be open to
no, I'm
be able
glad
to
you
do
brought
in
it
this
up.
town as well. Let me see, I'm looking
I
at.
thought that was your last one.
No, sorry.
No, it's all right, get it
Um,
out.
So another issue that I had was that I really am encouraged, it's not really an issue, but I just wanted to make a statement, that I am encouraged to see some progress moving forward as far as trying to have the road accepted. It's nice to see. My only cautionary note is that I do know that if past history is any indicator of future, it's a concern to me that despite whatever is done, the street will still not be accepted. And I look at other streets that the town owns, and, if they're at this level, then why does Dave's Way have to have the bar up to here? Should there not be equality and reasonableness?
Well, that's, of course, go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Lewis.
because when they were accepted, they looked like that too, right? I mean, I continue to be amazed that we make agreements like this back in the day, but that doesn't happen anymore. Right? We still have a few areas that will do that, and we'll address them as they go forward, but I don't, go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
No, wait till the chairman recognizes.
All right.
I also think the easy answer to that is, too, a developer like Mr. Chiaretti or other subdivisions in town, when they finish, hopefully finish, and not pull out like others have, when they finish a subdivision, when they go through that covenant, there's a checklist we talked about at the previous meeting. And everybody lives here is a taxpayer. That road should be perfect, pristine, shouldn't be cuts in the berms, there shouldn't be caved-in drainage covers. I'm not saying Dave's Way, I'm just saying, and when Danny, highway superintendent or highway department shouldn't have to worry about that road for X number of years. And that's why these, like John just said, some of these rules have changed. Base coat can only be down so long, finish coat, because we don't want to, if there was like one lot left on Dave's Way, and we accepted it, and somebody goes through there with a tracked piece of equipment and chews the road up, we don't catch them, guess what? We have to fix it, we being the town. So I think your point is well taken. And as we said in the past, I encourage the report that was written, I forget, Danny, what, in the 90s, about the $2 million.
Yeah.
Somebody came in and evaluated our roads, and it was like a $2 million almost annual expenditure to bring these roads. I mean, Danny, we do what we can with the money we have. but
Chapter 9.
A subdivision upon completion should not require maintenance for several years, and it shouldn't look like, I'll just pick on it because it's out here, Brandon Road, which has been a town road since probably the 1700s.
Well, it all goes back to the budget. I mean, we only get X amount of dollars to maintain the roadway, so a lot of them, I mean, they're not gonna be kept up to pristine condition. We just can't do it. So if we're gonna take a road over, you still, even if it's in pristine condition, you're still gonna plow it, sand it, sweep it, clean the catch basins, any kind of brush trimming. There's still a variety, abundance of work to do on a pristine road, along with all the other roads we have.
Mr. Marcy?
Just one other thing. I know there's a sense of, okay. There's a sense of like, it might not happen. You know, you guys have been waiting for a long time, but to Mr. Fox's point earlier, if all the criteria have been met, and when you go to town meeting with all of your neighbors, right, make sure that everybody knows that date, right? Okay? People of Dudley, especially people who go to the town meeting, are pretty smart, and, you know, they know that, yep, okay, this has been made, and there's really no reason to say no to something like this, right? And so that's what I want to say about that. I know that it's up to the rest of the taxpayers to decide whether we want to take that on, right? But making a big case for that, you know, we're doing that now, and you have been doing it, Mr. Soretti. I mean, you've been really, really good about checking those boxes off. So that's huge. Second thing is, I mean, just from you see one road like this, and I mean, Danny maintains a list. I mean, he says we limited budget for roads, right? We get some Chapter 90 money that we can do other stuff from the state, but there's a list, an order, and Danny knows which roads are going to get done every year, and it's just this rolling thing over many years when we get to redoing them. So someday, if this becomes a reality, that, you know, Dave's Way might get paved again, right? That's how that works. Might be way down the road because
Hopefully it is.
hopefully, right? Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, if we don't have any more new public information, I don't like people to wonder where I am or why I will take a position that I'm going to take. I like people to know. Then they are free to agree or disagree. It makes it a lot easier. I'm prepared, when the public hearing is over, to make a motion that we recommend approval of Dave's Way to the town meeting, for acceptance to the town meeting, that does not include the 3 houses on the common driveway, and that we do not include them at this time without prejudice, meaning that we can add them under certain circumstances. And those circumstances would include 2 things. One, that the houses be renumbered to fit with Dave's Way addresses, and that the common driveway is acceptable for Dan to plow. So prior to that occurring, we need to get a clarification as to who owns the land under the right-of-way. We need to know that, all right? And then number 2 is to allow them to come back at a date in the future when it meets the criteria, and we can add that as numbered houses on Dave's Way.
Mr. Marcy?
I like where you're going with that. I was going to suggest, we mentioned Circle Drive, Paula Lane, and maybe put some sort of emergency stipulation if we have to get in there. I know it's difficult because you might have to send a pickup and stuff like that, but again, taxpayers.
I don't think we need to stipulate
At
that.
some time, because
we
we do that anyway, but I wanted to say it, right?
You know, I don't think we
We're
need to
opening up a can of
specifically.
worms if we do
Well,
that.
I know,
Big
but
can. And Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask if Mr. Joseph would either withdraw or reconsider his motion, because we are putting the cart ahead of the horse, because the planning board has not even held a public hearing
I'm sorry,
yet.
subject to approval by planning board.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
And I know most of us, maybe all of us, have been down there and driven it and read the reports and did what we are technically required to get out and walk that road.
Yep.
Yeah,
Whether we
I
do it,
already
whether we
did
do it
that
as a
also.
group or we do it as an
I drove up
individual.
there.
But I don't think we can make any, I don't think it'd be prudent to make a motion until we get, and now we're gonna be up against them. We can continue it to before the town meeting, which is not my best choice.
Not a lot of time. We got to move, though.
Well, you know, again, I'm not trying to, I want to see it accepted. Mr. Shreddy has really stepped up on this one. I firmly believe that. And I'm not trying to be a contrarian, but if this was all submitted on January 31st like it was supposed to, I'm assuming it wasn't, because we wouldn't be going through this, I don't think, May 8th. These questions could have been answered in February, March, April,
Now, we're not gonna meet again till
town meeting.
that's
Town
right.
meeting.
So,
Right, and so I think if you're gonna do
all
anything,
this other stuff.
you can,
Fix this,
you can
fix
vote
that.
to accept the layout of Dave's Way. And I hate to play wordsmith, but that action is needed before town meeting. It has to be filed with the town clerk 10 days before town meeting. There are all types of legal dates that fall into play here. You can vote to recommend or not recommend acceptance at town meeting, but the layout needs to be approved this evening.
You know what, Sully, Greg, can we do this? Rather than withdraw, Steve, the motion?
We can't make a motion till after we close.
No, I know, I'm not making one, but rather than withdraw it when the time comes, what if we made the motion subject to acceptance or approval by the planning board and subject to a walking review, walking on-site review, which Steve has advocated for some time, by a majority of the Board of Selectmen? Now, if we did both those things, would that work? Because if it's not accepted by the planning board, or we don't get a majority to do the walkthrough, then it's gonna end up, we're gonna recommend something different
You
to
have
the
every-
town meeting.
You have every right to go to town meeting, even if you approve the layout this evening.
Yeah.
Layout is basically signing a plan that defines the meets and bounds description of the roadway that's going to go to town meeting.
And related easements.
Correct. Now, if you decide that the road is not in suitable condition, you can take a vote prior to town meeting not to recommend action and approval at town.
Okay.
I'm okay with
So, Mr. Chair, one last question then. It clearly states in our public hearing notice, with related easements. Do we have the right to take the action that the town administrator recommended, but take the stipulation that Mr. Joseph articulated, not to include the easement to these folks' houses? And that's way beyond me. I'm not a planner. I don't.
I would, great question,
Because if that,
Steve.
well, wait, because if that, any related easement that was approved in the original subdivision approval is in force until you go through a public hearing and remove them. If something came in at a public hearing, has to come out in a public hearing, and we weren't the host of the original public hearing, I don't believe. We being the board.
Mr. Chairman, can we ask the town administrator, if we do what he said, would that, you said within the parameters, leaps and bounds, et cetera, would that also include the easement?
Could you bring up the plan, please? Dan, do you have a copy of the plan? I just want to see that.
I'm gonna hear about it. My point being, any easement that's accepted, there's a drainage easement on the right side of the road. I mean, we could, in theory, if we say we can make one easement go away, we can make another. I don't think we have that authority.
Yeah, the deed to the roadway references the drainage easements, Steve. It does not make any reference to the private driveway easement that was referenced this evening. But it does talk about, 1, 2, 3, 4 drainage easements that appear throughout the plan. And those are actually referenced in the deed that we have in front of us here this evening.
Is the question, Mr. Sullivan, if we vote to accept this or recommend to the town meeting that they accept it as a public way, that it will include the driveway easement?
The question was, and I think he just answered it, driveway easement is not.
Not referenced in the deed.
So, that was my question in the beginning, I asked Mr.
Oh,
Sharetti
okay.
if he remembered.
Yeah.
If it was referenced in the deed, I think we'd be in a tight spot.
So what would the appropriate motion be, Mr. Chairman?
I think it's, we make a motion subject to planning board approval.
Well, to accept the meets, and Greg said we have to do the meets and
layout.
bounds tonight, the layout, which
The
is
layout.
different than street acceptance.
So-
Okay, all right, before
can
we get,
accept that.
we're going too far down the road in process, we still have the hearing open, correct?
Right.
Is there anyone else Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to?
Thank you.
Can I just ask one last question?
Yes, ma'am.
I was curious to know, when you look at a real estate tax bill for the year, what percentage or what formula is used to decide how much of that real estate tax is going towards highway maintenance?
Town meeting. When
Oh,
you
you're
approve-
right.
you
The
approve
town meeting
budget.
Town meeting budget.
appropriates the money.
When you approve the budget.
That's the one you
Right,
got
so-
tattooed on your tongue, remember that now.
So if it were,
Town meeting
if the
budget
town
will
meeting
be
voted to
discussed
put
at that time.
100% of all tax bills towards the highway, everything else would shut down. It's all up to the appropriation at town
I
meeting.
think the easy answer is, Mr. Guyan could probably answer, one time you said at a meeting, 3 cents on every dollar goes to the highway department? Is that
It
how-
varies. It
basically,
varies from
roughly?
year to year.
Roughly.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your listening.
66 goes to the school.
What's
Great
the, Mr.
questions.
Chairman, what's the town administrator's advice?
My suggestion to the board is for you to merely take a motion to approve the layout of the roadway as referenced on the plan that's before you this evening, to withhold any action on recommending acceptance of the road by town meeting until such time as you have had an opportunity to go out there again and feel comfortable with the existing conditions, and the planning board also can make a positive recommendation to town meeting.
Okay,
Failing your vote and the planning board's vote, it doesn't get approved through town meeting.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, then we accept.
Well, let me just
Yeah,
close
close
the,
the public
let me just
Oh,
close
sorry,
the
yes,
close the
sorry,
meeting.
right.
So the chair will close the public hearing at 7:50.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the plan presented tonight
The
entitled.
layout,
Entitled Definitive Plan of Dudley Hill Estates owned by Shreddy Builders, Plan Book 600, Plan 49 with related easements as presented tonight.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Marcy. We're approving the layout,
Just
correct?
the layout.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion?
let me think. Okay,
What am I missing? You get cl-
No, he's thinking about discussion.
No?
I didn't read the whole description, but I referenced the plan and the number.
right, that's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Mr.
The
Marcy?
only thing I would add is the ideas we were throwing around earlier are just ideas, like I said, as this moves along, so let's focus on this.
Well, the good part about Sully's motion, Mr. Chairman, is that we can still take a vote after we do a walk-around and after the town administrator refers this to the planning board prior to the town meeting. We can still take action at that meeting before the town meeting as to whether or not we want to recommend approval or acceptance or not. I do want to somewhere have it said in writing that the town cannot continue to turn private roads into public roads that we then become financially responsible for at additional cost and strain on the highway department staff and the hidden cost of streetlights. And for that reason, I would want us on this board to make it a priority to see if we can't get a solar array on the old landfill. I know Greg has been working on it off and on, but if we can do that and build up a credit, and I'm just gonna tell you, I haven't paid a penny to National Grid for electricity in 13 months because of my solar panels. I can only imagine what kind of credits we would build up to offset these hidden streetlight costs for additional roads and already existing lights.
These are great ideas.
Further discussion on the motion?
Great ideas.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank everybody that came tonight,
Yes,
because we always have public hearings and no
Where
one
is
shows
she?
up.
You did a really good job. Really good.
Mr. Sharetti?
Chairman, can I be notified when you do your site walk and be present, please?
If we get our act together, we'd be absolutely happy to notify.
David.
Well, you know what? Let's see if we can't set a date while Dave's here.
Well, if it's a quorum, if not, maybe we can contact Dave individually.
Well, yeah, but he's got to post it
Right.
if there's a quorum. So let's see if we can get 3 or more of us there at one time. And if so, it's a public meeting, you're welcome to come.
Anybody can.
So wait, hold on. Let's see if we can't set that. Can we set a date now? We got to do it before the town meeting.
Mr. Chair, I personally, I would be available, to say next Monday after 4,
Won't be here.
4:30?
John, how are you?
I won't be here.
You can't come?
I'll be in New Jersey.
How about a weekend? You must have a Saturday or Sunday,
I work
Steve.
Saturdays.
That's what I'm
How-
saying.
John?
I mean, I know we have to have this, but I mean, at least 3 of us can go. We have the town administrator, we have the highway superintendent that we, entrust these things
I
to.
can go.
I can go,
trust
you
their
can go.
judgment.
You can do it individually, too, if you can't make it. You
Oh,
can-
I don't, yeah.
I've already
Right,
done it.
I've already done it. I've already done it.
I saw it after,
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go back
Mason
because,
asked-
the
John,
changes
is there a time that you can make it at any time?
work around me.
You don't know?
No, I can. I mean,
What's the
Okay.
requirement that we actually, is it a bylaw requirement or something?
Yes,
No.
yes. I believe it's part of the acceptance
Isn't it kind of
procedure.
absurd that we have to do it to begin with?
We have to do it
The
prior
highway
to town
commissioners-
meeting.
I know, but
Right.
Not prior to this, but we have to do it prior to town meeting before we can make a recommendation.
Well, what if we all say that we?
like I
Does
said,
this all have to be done together? Because I know Mr. Guyan was there, the town planner was there, and the selectman was supposed to show, never showed up.
Yeah, they just don't count.
That has to be done all together.
but I
We
was,
pay those fine gentlemen
I was there
handsomely.
Friday when they,
So-
I'm saying you went. I did. Mr. Guyan's gone.
I went.
I was there
I went
twice.
when they were paving.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I
You
talked
should
to
be all
Billy one
set.
time when I was there.
yeah, so I mean, it seems like everybody's already visited.
I went twice.
Me too.
I'll drive over again.
Before they paved, and I went after they paved.
Steve, you can do it after
all right,
4
if it
o'clock
becomes
Monday?
if it
Closer to
becomes a
4:30.
hang-up, we'll have Greg get a hold of you,
All
okay?
right, you know what, Greg? Peter, Stephen, and I can make it after 4:30 on Monday.
Is that okay?
You tell me, I'll be there.
We'll be getting ready for candidates night.
Oh,
It's all right.
that's not till what,
Candidates
6:30?
Right.
Supposed to be at 4 o'clock?
I work till 4, so I won't be there. I mean, if I left right away, it'd be like 4:10.
Yeah, we shouldn't be, it's 6:30 is candidates night.
4:15?
If we're wandering around out there at 6
All right,
o'clock or
let's,
6:30.
can we post it for 4:15 on Monday?
Coming one.
Yep.
15th. Yeah, I mean, if I'll come right from work. I mean, 4 o'clock, it's 10 or 15
Meet you at
minutes.
Dave's
Yeah, nobody
Way.
cares, you get your
All right,
uniform on.
I don't care
4:15.
about that. I probably won't get in there on
Good enough, 4:15 Monday.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Mish, don't forget, send a
Item B
reminder
is
email.
also a public hearing on cemetery rules and regulations. And the chair will open that public hearing at 7:57. Mr. Valiakonis, at your convenience.
So, we continued the hearing to allow any input from the public, resulting on the discussion about changes to the cemetery rules and regulations. You have a copy of the letter that we did receive, and an opportunity for anyone else who wished to participate in the process to be here, to add input and weigh in on the matter.
Is there anyone here tonight that would like to be heard on this matter?
Mr. Chair, make a motion that... Oh, she's the letter writer. Does she want to speak?
Hi, Linda David.
Hi, come on up.
Come on up.
Does she want to speak?
I think you should. It was a wonderful letter.
I just could put these in my calendar.
Yeah.
If they don't, we'll be going Dave's way.
You know, you have the letter in front of you, and I didn't,
We have it.
you know, bring it with me to read it again, but one of the things I did do afterwards, because you never do this when you're young and you don't think about death, is to actually look at the rules of the cemetery. And I had done that after I wrote this letter, and as I was looking for when this session was being open. And you know, the other thing that concerned me is, you know, the rule that says a single plot can't have an upright stone. It can only have a marker. And I just think that's sad for anyone who is in a single grave, that they don't get the same respect as people buried around them.
Did we clarify that?
We did.
Because I had the same question.
You can have a marker and a monument.
Oh, you
Market of
can.
what, John?
NC, 2B
And a
and
monument.
C, right? We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
Good point.
that was, you know, a main concern of mine. because my family plot is almost filled, so I could be one of those people that's in a single plot somewhere. As a lifelong resident of Dudley too, and my grandparents and parents and my whole family is here in Dudley. So those were, that was just my other concern, was about a single plot, making sure that they could have an upright stone also.
That was addressed though, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So one upright monument is allowed per plot. So that at least address that one concern that you had.
Are there currently plots that have more than one headstone?
Single plot.
Danny, come on up, please. Do you know of any
All right.
plots that currently have more than one headstone?
I do not.
Do we have any double plots in the cemeteries that you know of?
With more than one headstone?
Yeah,
No. A
Okay.
double lot can have, as far as I'm aware, can have one headstone in the middle,
One,
if it's a double lot.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what it says. Yeah. 2D.
this is a really well-written letter.
Thank you.
It really is. I like what you said, I like how you said it. I like the patience that was underlying, clearly underlying what your mind wanted to say. And I thought you did a real good job of restraining yourself with appropriate phraseology.
Thank you.
You did a nice job.
He doesn't say that too often. That's a true compliment.
That's high praise and
Usually finds a grammatical error or something. that you made a
I couldn't find one.
No, but Mr. Chairman, it underscores that, you know, this is important to people, and not just something we talk about every other Monday night about minutia, about, you know, stones and street signs and street lights and speed bumps, what flowers you can or can't have. It's just really important. And you almost speak for a lot of people.
I was hoping I was.
Yeah, and I took it that way. I got that in the email, and I wanted to clap when I read it, because, and this is kind of why I do this thing. This is a quality of life thing. I mentioned that earlier. And it's important that, you know, we hear it. You know, we have a job to do in order to maintain those places, but we have to make sure that everybody has dignity and respect and is able to, you know, go there and visit loved ones.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, you know, there's an explanation for everything. There's an explanation for the behavior in terms of maintenance of the cemeteries. And whenever there's an explanation, that also means there's a solution. I have heard many times, and we've all heard, that there appears to be an insensitivity to appropriately, reasonably planted flowers and whatnot. And the lack of sensitivity, Linda, is not because these people don't care about dead people. It's not that they have an irreverence about them, but it's because we have too few people doing too much work, because they're really part of the highway, all right? And they've got to get that done within a time frame. Grass won't agree to sit there and not grow till you can get to it. So the answer, that's the problem. The problem is insensitivity to what's there. And I love, and I really, really respect all the people in the highway department, and Danny and the crew in buildings and grounds. And they could be more sensitive. I believe that, and I've seen that. But they also are faced with getting a job done in a very short time frame with we're not overstaffed in the highway department or in buildings and grounds. So again, we need to bring out that there is a reason, as acceptable or unacceptable as it is, there is a reason, and knowing that, we need to try to do something to resolve the solution. Whether it's a half-time person, Danny, on the highway department, when warm weather comes, and we know we've got so much more outside stuff to do, but we need to be sensitive to that, and if we do that, I think we can help solve the problem.
Mr. Sullivan.
You know, Mr. Chair, I just want to echo Mr. Joseph, and I agree, Mr. David, this was a great letter. You brought up a lot of salient points. And all I can say is I ask people, if you see things that aren't right, like you addressed a couple things in there about things being maybe mowed, shouldn't have been, maybe trimmed. All I can say is, since I've been on the board, and I think I speak for everybody, when we need people to bring it to our attention, whether that means take a photo, email it to the secretary, it will be addressed. I mean, Mr. Guyon is extremely responsive when one of us gets goes through Greg usually, goes to Danny, he's very responsive, and I would encourage you or anybody at home. We had people come in about a year and a half ago talking about a flower box that kept getting thrown in the trash. I mean, these issues will be addressed, and the appropriate person or persons, or whatever the case may be, will be investigated. I mean, I've been in the cemetery myself with Mr. Guyon and the previous administrator when somebody's eternal light was stolen. I mean, I know we all take it very seriously. We will address concerns that you brought up. I will, for sure.
And, and we're all aware there's budget issues and, like if the highway department is doing this task, is it coming out of their budget? I don't know how the cemetery commissioner or has budgeted for that type of things. I mean, I know other cemeteries from other states where my family are, there's perpetual care trust funds, and I don't know if Dudley has any of those things set up. I mean, Corbin Cemetery, where my family plots are, I believe is closed. I don't think you can buy any more plots. I think it's sold out, and so obviously you won't be getting, if you got money for perpetual care from the sale of plots, and your cemeteries are filling up and you're not selling sites anymore, then where is that money going to come from for perpetual care?
She brings up good ideas, eh?
I can't speak on that.
Yeah,
We use a real small amount of money from perpetual care. It's not enough to...
that's interesting.
It's not enough to do anything substantial.
Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to come up and speak about this
And look at,
cemetery policy?
Want me to leave?
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you, thank you, good job.
Mr. Chair, then if it's appropriate at this time, I make a motion that we approve the, wasn't a public hearing,
Yes, it was.
Okay, the chair will
it was a discussion.
close the hearing at 8:07.
It was
Okay.
listening to the public hearings, I'm sorry.
8:06?
It wasn't,
8:06. What was the question?
whatever. I make a motion that we accept the cemetery rules and regulations as presented tonight and to be adopted, effective, help me out, Greg?
Yeah, you want to adopt it at a later date, Danny. Was it May 1st? It was May 1st,
May
I think.
15th? May 15th? Well, it says in here, if summer decorations permitted May, I'll make, Mr. Chair, adopted effective May 15th.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Fox. Is there discussion?
Can I hear that again, Steve? Just the end of it?
Make a motion that they are adopted effective May 15th, because that's what he has in his thing,
May 1/5?
May 15, 2017.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr.
Like-
Chairman,
Mr. Joseph.
under licensing and permits, I'm going to move that we grant an outdoor entertainment license on Friday, August 25th, from 6 to 10 p.m., and Saturday, August 26th, from 6 to 10 p.m., on the church grounds at St. Andrew Bola Church at 54 West Main Street, Dudley, for the annual parish festival.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, seconded by Mr. Fox. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion carried with one abstention. Public business, number 8, notice of intent to convert to other use under MGL Chapter 61A, right of first refusal, Lot 59, 1.51 acres located on Mill Road, Dudley. known as Timothy Zajac, with the intent to sell Lot 59 for the purpose of building a residential home.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that the town does not exercise their right under 61A.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Sullivan, second by Mr. Marcy. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Is that unanimous?
It was.
Okay.
Should be.
8B, Memorial Day Parade, Monday, May 28th, 2017. Michelle, Greg has details.
You have a copy of the packet of information for the Memorial Day program. The gathering in the Corbin Cemetery is at 7:25 on Memorial Day, and 7:50 proceeding to Village Cemetery, 8:10 a.m. Town Common, breakfast, and proceeding to the Town Hall here in Dudley at 9 a.m., Cavalry Cemetery at 9:30 a.m., VFW Bridge between Webster and Dudley at 9:45 a.m., and then continuation of the program in Webster as enumerated in
I'm
the
going to move that we acknowledge receipt of the sequence and itinerary for Memorial Day Parade, and that we defer any further questions until our meeting on the 22nd.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, seconded by Mr. Fox.
Mr. Chair, just want to announce that I've done it in the past. Any elected official or appointed official please come and join us. You know, the more the merrier. It's usually selectmen only, but we'll accept anybody that's a representative
Any
of the town.
elected or appointed official, correct.
Mr. Tatro?
Mr. Tatro especially.
Mr. Tatro, you're welcome. We can pick you up at 6.
Oh, the whole thing. Oh, yeah, the whole thing.
Chief gets us all. We can fit one more.
I do,
We can still get a ride?
I do.
From Shrewsbury, Greg.
Milford.
Now.
Milford.
Okay, what's next?
We get a vote on it.
Sign the election warrant.
All right,
All in favor of the other
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
Unanimous.
all in favor of the what?
The motion you made about to accept.
Oh, what are we waiting on?
Chief organizing his car.
He's just window dressing
We get the
tonight.
warrant coming?
We have it here for the June 12th election.
Mr. Chair, make a motion, we accept the warrant as presented by the town clerk for the annual town election on Monday, June 12, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Marcy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Looking those guys.
Item D was taken out of order earlier. Student Representative, Mr. Tatro.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dayton.
Just remind everyone that before you leave this evening, please sign the plan with the black pen that is there. There's a block that says Selectmen approved on it.
Yeah,
That's approving the layout. Do not sign the bottom plan, which is the 2008 plan.
I won't sign anything until you specifically point to it again.
We will.
Let the kid talk, will you?
Mr. Tatro.
Street.
The varsity baseball team fell to St. Peter Marion on Thursday,
Again?
May 4th, 14-3. Their next game will be at Blackstone Valley Tech on Monday, May 8th at 3:30. The varsity softball team defeated Grafton on Friday, May 5th, 1-0. They improved to 7-4 and are currently ranked 4th in the district. Their next game will be at Tantascwa on Tuesday, May 9th. AP exams began on May 1st and will continue through this Thursday, May
No,
11th.
that's May 9th is tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they have to go to Tantascwa?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't see them locally.
Yeah.
Okay.
The district-wide art show, Art Through the Ages, took place at Shepherd Hill on Friday, May 5th. Artwork by students from grades K through 12 were on display, showcasing the district's ever-growing arts department and its impact on students of all ages throughout the district. The spring SAT was administered to juniors on Saturday, May 6th at Shepherd Hill. And the next weeks at Shepherd Hill, Quarter 4 progress reports will be given out on Friday, May 12th. The Shepherd Hill Show Choirs will present their Awesome 80s Spectacular on Friday, May 12th at 7 p.m. Tickets on sale now. Math MCAS will be administered to students in grade 10 on Tuesday and Wednesday, May 16th and 17th. The prom will be held at the DCU Center in Worcester on Saturday, May 20th. Senior finals will begin on Thursday, May 18th. And finally, the commencement ceremony of the Shepherd Hill class of 2017 will take place on Sunday, June 4th at the DCU Center in Worcester.
The show choir concert is what date?
This Friday, May 12th. Sorry. Yeah, May 12th. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, kid.
Anytime.
Thank you, Jared.
Board member comments.
None?
None.
Mr. Marcy.
Okay, I'd like to let everybody know that this Saturday, which is the
Little League?
9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, I think the 13th, at noon, the parade will commence, Little League Parade, so Dudley Little League. So I was going to ask my colleagues, any elected appointed officials who would like to march in that parade, please show up at the town hall around 11:30, and we'll muster there, and then we will walk to the fields, starting at noon.
Are you gonna march?
Yeah.
Are you a coach?
And not. I do that. Really?
Okay.
Really?
Mr. Joseph said it
Thank you.
many times tonight, very important, town meeting coming up, budget. We're still waiting on some final numbers from the school. We're trying to get a consensus. And I would like to see an overflow crowd into the cafeteria. There'd be so many people concerned, but I hope we have enough people there to conduct town business.
I agree.
Please don't forget, and please attend.
This means you, Dave's Way residents.
And we also have Meet the Candidates Night coming up, as was discussed briefly earlier. It's a chance for you to come in and find out who's running for your offices, and it's gonna be held on the 15th in this room at 6:30, right?
Now, Kerry, you're running for selectman for sure?
What did he do?
You gonna be at that candidates night?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck to all.
Town administrators report, please.
Just ask you to look into the packet. There's a couple of pieces. First is a letter from Superintendent Desto, Dudley Charlton Regional Schools, concerning their budget and the 2018 budget. And the letter is a revision on the Dudley Charlton Regional School 2018 budget. I'll just paraphrase quickly the first paragraph. The district understands the difficulties our towns are facing, and one of the most difficult budgets we've ever had, and we feel our obligation to the children and families under our care to require us to make every effort to minimize further reductions in staffing and programs. So I think when I met to you last time, I had reported that the required minimum contribution for Dudley is a $466,723 increase, and the schools felt as though a responsible budget for them was something higher than that $466,000 increase. So if you turn to page 2 of Mr. Desto's letter, you'll see, if you go down to the total assessment for Dudley, there's a number that says $614,607. School committee is going to be meeting on Wednesday evening, and it's my view and the superintendent's view that this is the target number that the school committee will adopt the budget for vote of town meeting. So it's a little bit less than what I had thought, because I had indicated to you that I thought that there was an upper limit, that number might be a bit higher. And one of the things that I felt was a concern was not depleting the stabilization fund in its entirety. So there's a second piece that I put together, which just says funding sources 2018. Okay, so if you want to look at that, it's just a bunch of numbers on it. Right underneath it. Turn to the first page. Looks like this. Should be right under it. Might even be stapled to it. I'll wait till everyone finds it. There it is. Okay, so these numbers really haven't changed. The town's budget still remains the same, but what has changed is the stabilization fund, and the amount is increased to $356,192. The news for the town is that would leave us with a balance of $143,808 in the stabilization fund after the budget is funded. And if the budget is funded at the school level, we would have $143,808 left. And I think I had reported to you a couple weeks ago, I thought $100,000 was the minimum that we could leave town meeting with, and we would leave town meeting with a bit more than that, almost $144,000. It would take us some time to be able to pay that money back, but I think this is probably a reasonable consensus going into town meeting. I know the schools are preparing for a possible override for 2019. That's not on the table as part of this meeting, and I don't expect that that's part of the discussion that we have on Wednesday night. But I think the number will be higher than the required minimum of the 466, and I'm guessing that it'll be the number that has been reported this evening. And if it is, we can balance our budget. We have to use money from the stabilization fund, but we'll leave town meeting with $144,000 in that account remaining, and we have a balanced budget.
It's the first time we've had to do that since you've
Yeah,
been the
but
administrator,
but here's some good news. We haven't spent any of the money from our solar pilot agreements,
Yeah.
so we use that money to reestablish and
Replenish.
replenish our stabilization.
Okay, good.
And where is that meeting on Wednesday?
Good question. I don't want to give you the wrong information, Peter. I'll let you know. Perhaps Debbie knows.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, on
Is
page,
it at Shepherd
oh, Deb,
Hill?
Wednesday, the 10th. Thanks, Deb.
What time?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph.
on page 2, for both Charlton and Dudley, the second entry says minimum busing additional.
Right.
Now, I always thought the word to bus, meaning to transport in multi-passenger vehicles, was BUS. And to bus, meaning to kiss, is BUSS. So my question is, should that busing be BUS or BUSSING?
There's no, why do I even,
Going on, I know that.
no wonder we're walking around streets trying to figure out whether,
To bus or not to bus, Paul?
Holy minutia
That's the
down there.
question.
Well, I don't want our school system
I know.
using improper
That was low.
spelling
That was low hanging
and then try to
fruit.
educate our kids with that.
That was right over the plate for you.
Where'd that lady go when I
His
told her?
wheelhouse, wasn't it?
Anyway, what'd I tell you? He likes to find it.
Anything else?
I
Before,
will be going to that meeting on Wednesday night.
You
okay.
will?
I will.
Oh, yes.
Would you,
Thank you.
is there any appetite to move the town administrator's report in the future higher in our agenda? Because it seems like by the time we get here,
We're tired.
some key points are brought out and nobody really gives them the,
I'd love to move it up on the
where would you
agenda.
like to put it?
Somewhere after public
after-
comment.
But after adjournment.
After public
No, not
business?
tonight.
Without objection, we'll ask Michelle to
because that's
work with
really
Greg
bad.
to move that item on the agenda up.
Okay, I want it.
And either the
Nobody's
departmental communication?
Is the school using-
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna move that we adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, seconded by Mr. Flax. Is the discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you,
Motion.
good night.
Good night, though.